Do you ever wonder how your hair grows longer, how your muscles get bigger, and how even a tiny little scrape on your hand can be fixed? Well, this all comes down to something called mitosis. Well, what is mitosis? So mitosis is a process of cell division, and this mainly acts as a function for growth and repair, but it's actually crucial for survival. Just like other body mechanisms, mitosis requires a few steps before cell division can occur. This all begins with something called interphase. An interphase has three subcategories called the G1, the S, and the G2. In G1, the cell grows and packages protein required for DNA synthesis, which is the S phase. The DNA replicates into two sister chromatids, as the cell needs to divide into two later on. And the G2 is where the cell continues to grow a bit and package more proteins required for mitosis overall. And just like interphase, mitosis requires a couple of steps as well, and this all begins with prophase this time. And prophase is where chromosomes begin to condense, and this is a very important step as uncondensed chromosomes tend to be a little messy. It's a bit all over the place, just kind of like spaghetti. So we don't want to deal with spaghetti floating around the cell, right? It's kind of hard to organize and pull them everywhere. So what we want to do is to condense them into small bundles, attach a string called a spindle in the cell, and then move them around. So in prophase, this is where the spindle forms as well. Then in prometaphase, the nuclear membrane disappears, and the spindles attach to the more condensed chromosomes, and then it manages to move the chromosomes around the cell. And in metaphase, this is where the spindle pulls the chromosomes along the metaphase plate. And the metaphase plate really isn't a physical plate. It's more of an imaginary line where the chromosomes line up across the cell. In anaphase, the spindles pull the sister chromatids apart to opposite sides of the cell. And in telophase, this is where the nuclei, the nucleoli, and the nuclear membrane begin to reform again. The spindle begins to disappear as it's no longer required in this cell cycle. And finally, we have cytokinesis. This is where the cell finally divides into two daughter cells as the middle pinches itself until it splits into two. And this all concludes to the end of mitosis. So now we know whenever you have a scrape on your hand or your knee, we know that your cell has got your back.